Hey guys, and welcome back to Politea with D. Oh my god, it's so hot outside. I don't even know how people are functioning in this heat. I know I'm not functioning very well. Like 33 degrees, 33 degrees. No, I think today's 28 or 29. But this past week it got up to 36. That's not normal. That's actually not normal. And I don't know why no one, every time people keep talking about the heat on TV, on the news, whatever, no one wants to mention it's because of climate change. It's literally because of climate change. Everyone's just like, isn't it crazy that the weather's so hot? And I'm like, I think there's a reason for that. Actually, I do think there's a reason. And I saw something that um people are thinking of like having a maximum temperature work day or something. Like if it reaches a certain temperature, you don't work that day. I heard that. Is that ever gonna come true? I think people were talking about it in the UK and in Ireland, but unlikely. I think Spain already has a maximum temperature day, which you'd want to have one in Spain, to be fair. It gets roasting over there. But I don't know, there's just something about the heat here. Like, it's just really humid, especially same at home. It's like, it's just humid. It's just humid and it's disgusting and it makes you icky. So right now I'm really struggling, I'll be real with you guys. But whatever. I feel like I'm a chronic complainer. Like, when it's too cold, I'm like, Jesus. How do people survive in this freezing temperature? If it's too hot, I complain again. You know what I mean? So you can't win. But I feel like my ideal temperature. Have you seen that Miss Congeniality thing? It's like my ideal date, and she's like April 21st. I think she said April 21st. My ideal temperature, 24 degrees. I think 24 is good. 24, 23 is a good temperature. But anyway, that being said, let's actually get into the politics of this week. First and foremost, remember the CHI had so many scandals, one of them being around the scoliosis surgeries and like whether they were necessary or like waiting lists, all of that. So the inquiry has begun, but it's come out that two like advocacy groups for people involved have said that they can't support this inquiry, whatever, all the same. So, Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Pediatric Advocacy Group and the Scoliosis Advocacy Network, they've both written to Jennifer Carroll McNeil and to the opposition leaders and said, we can't support this. We're not going to get involved. And they're representing 900 families. So that's a lot of people. They wrote to Jennifer Carroll McNeil and they said, we cannot support her flawed scoping process, which hinders a full, transparent investigation. And someone who's also involved in this inquiry and who said that they don't want to be involved, or like they won't be involved, is Gillian Sherritt, and she's the mother of Harvey Martin Sherritt. If you guys don't remember who that is, he passed away last year, 8 months after getting his scoliosis surgery, but he had been on the waiting list for years and years and years, and at one point he was taken off the waiting list, and that without like his parents being told, without anyone being told, then he was put back on it, got his surgery after a few years, but he still passed away. So she is somebody who would be involved in this, but she's not. So she said, this inquiry doesn't look like it's going to go as wide or as deep as it needs to really uncover everything that has gone on at Children's Health Ireland over all these years. So far, it seems as though the Minister for Health and the government are more concerned over protecting the institution than they are the children at the centre of all of this. For us to have any involvement in an inquiry, it needs to be one that will be robust and will truly get to the root cause of all of these problems and will ensure that history doesn't repeat itself, she said. So she's saying that there's reports, unpublished reports, that the families don't have access to, that it's not fair. So even the groups that are representing these families are also saying, like, it seems like the CHI and this investigator have all this access to information that we don't have, and it's not fair. Like, how is this a proper inquiry if we don't even know the full scope of what's going on? This is what the co-lead of the Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Pediatric Advocacy Group, Una Knightley, said. She said that they've written so many times to Jennifer Carroll McNeil about this, and she hasn't responded. Mind you, she's made responses in the media, but not directly to these families or to the advocacy groups that are contacting her. And she said Remy Farrell, who is the investigator, the like senior counsel who's in charge of investigating all of this, she said Remy Farrell has access to CHI reports that unfortunately the families don't, and we are being told that they will not be disclosed to us. We have very little information. And what's Jennifer Carroll McNeil's response to this? Well, she said she urged people to get in contact with the facilitator, and she said that like Remy Farrell has contacted all of these people, contacted all the families, or said, like, he's made himself available, he's introduced himself to everybody, and he's inviting everyone to meet him, but you need to make that decision if you want to meet him or not. And she's urging people to do that, but they've made their reservations clear, so he can invite them all they want. If they're not going to answer the fact that they have all of these unpublished reports, or that they're not going to go as deep as they want, that they should be going, then what's the point of having this inquiry? Like, it seems very like they want to, I feel like they're trying to appease everybody by saying, like, look, we did this investigation, this is what we found, well, but like, they're not going as deep as anybody wants them to go. And surely you should be listening to the families who are affected, because you're supposed to be doing this for them, no? So does this make sense? I don't know. But anyway, that's where we are on that. The CHI is always, it's always something with the CHI. I'm of the mind that we need to just scrap it. Like, we need to scrap the CHI and start from scratch or something, because they keep, there seems to be this thing where it's like, okay, an issue happens, a scandal happens, they change someone out of the leadership group, or they change somebody from like the board, or that's how they deal with it. But the things that happened still happen, and there's no addressing that. This is supposed to be step one in addressing that, but even Jennifer Carr McNeil said that the government has no plan to do a full inquiry into the CHI. They're only doing the scoliosis surgery, but like, the scoliosis surgeries are just like the tip of the iceberg, and by addressing everything, you would address that in more detail. So I don't know. Well, we know why the government don't want to investigate this, because it shows how corrupt the CHI is, but it doesn't work. And especially when the children's hospital is supposed to be opening, does it make sense to have that children's hospital be run by a corrupt organization, or like, not even necessarily corrupt, I would argue, but just ill-equipped? Like, these people don't know what they're doing. They don't, like, I feel like it was kind of put together last minute, kind of rushed, and I feel like maybe if they took some time to just say, okay, we fucked up, let's start again, let's start from scratch, let's find people who can actually run this, who have experience, who understand what we actually need. If they could just do that, maybe people would trust them more. But the fact that they're not willing to actually do a proper inquiry and a proper look into what the hell is going on with specific leaders, specific surgeries, like literally what is, like, from the leadership down to the very bottom, to figure out what is going on with that organization. Why does it seem like there's always something going on there? There's always a scandal that's coming out. If they were to just do that, maybe people would trust them, but they don't want to do that because it looks bad for them. But surely this also looks worse. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Let us talk about the triple lock. Okay, so the government are moving forward with this legislation, going through the stages, whatever. I feel like it's being guillotined, where it's like it kind of just flies through the stages because they really want to pass it. So what is the triple lock, if you guys have forgotten? It is kind of like a safeguard to protect our neutrality. So if you're trying to deploy Irish troops abroad, more than 12 personnel, the state has to secure three things: government approval, so that's just a formal cabinet decision; Dáil approval, so a majority from the Dáil, which obviously will always go to the government because they're the majority, but it still at least leaves the option for conversation, for scrutiny, for debate around it, public debate, so that we can all see why the government are doing this. And then lastly, UN authorization, so that's the UN Security Council or the UN General Assembly, but it's never really the UN General Assembly, it's always the UN Security Council, which is the main issue, because the government are saying, well, Russia can veto this and China can veto that, and all of, like, we can't go abroad, we can't, send our troops wherever we want because these countries have full control. That's their argument, okay? So, what is interesting about this is a bunch of Fianna Fáil TDs actually wrote a letter saying that, not that they're even opposed to the triple lock, that this should have been a conversation within the parliamentary party, because usually when a bill is put forward to, like, by a party, okay, it usually has gone through different stages within, like, an actual party, like Fianna Fáil, for example. If this was a normal bill that they're putting forward, Fianna Fáil themselves, like their members, their party members, people who are like, who paid the fees, the membership fees, they would have voted on this. And then once it's voted and everybody agrees, or a majority agrees that this is what they want to do, then they would bring that forward to the Dáil. Then they would bring that forward and say, this is our new policy that we want to go ahead with. It seems as though they didn't do that this time around. So let's read a bit of what this letter says. So some of it is saying that, as this UN Security Council is one of the reasons why people even voted for the Nice and Lisbon treaties. So they said this was also a central factor in enabling the government to persuade the Irish people to support the Nice and Lisbon referendum. So they're saying, so it does seem like they're opposed to the triple lock. It does seem as though some of these people are opposed to it. Interesting, like, that the government would go this far pushing abolishing the triple lock without even confirming if their party members wanted that. That seems a little crazy to me. Okay, so some of the people that have signed it: Willie O'D, James O'Connor, Padraig O'Sullivan, John Lahart, Albert Dolan, and a couple others. Um, and the backbenchers are arguing that this should have been discussed. I'll quote, in advance of the relevant legislation being presented to the Dáil or the Seanad. I can't believe this wasn't presented to their party beforehand. That's kind of insane. So another thing people are saying is that it should be a referendum. We've actually said this on here before, that it should be a referendum, that we should be the ones voting on it. Micheál Martin said that no, there will be no referendum because it's not that big of a change, okay? He said, referendums are normally to delete something or add something to the Constitution. This isn't in the Constitution. Yeah, well, no fucking shit, Sherlock, but that's why it says normally. Normally, not only. Okay, two different things. Okay, so if it's normally what we do, then maybe this isn't a normal situation, and maybe we should do something different. That's just my thought, though. Okay, and on the like, somebody asked him like, how'd you feel about your party saying, isn't it a bit weird that you brought this forward to the Dáil and to the Seanad without actually talking to us and deciding if the majority of your own party want this? And he said, people are entitled to raise issues within the parliamentary party. To be fair, Micheál Martin, he's going soon after this EU presidency, like his time is over. So I feel like honestly he's probably just over this shit, like. But anyway, he says, and this is probably like another nail in the coffin, not coffin law. Anyway, he said, I have no issues with that and we will discuss it at length. The real issue facing us is that we may not be in a position to participate in peacekeeping missions in the future if we rely on UN Security Council approval. The problem is, to a certain, hey, don't get me wrong, guys, to a certain extent, understand what he's saying. My problem with this whole situation is, why am I not deciding that though? Like, why is it not a referendum? And also, why is there not a decent alternative? Because you want us now to put our full neutrality in your hands, in your beliefs, and your what is right and wrong, and where we should be. Like, you want us to put that in your hands. That's not something I ever want to do. Mind you, I don't even like you guys. Never mind want to have you guys decide what countries we're in, all of that stuff. I don't want you to do that. I would argue that they need to. And their other option, if like this is to go through, is that they will release a report or something every time somebody goes abroad to a different country or is deployed. They'll release a report that, who knows, will it even be public? I don't know. They'll release a report and then we'll get to, and it'll say like why they sent them, where they sent them, how long they'll be there. Like, but then it's already done though. That's the thing. The report is already done. You've already sent them somewhere. There's no like discussion before they go and a decision of like, should they even go. You've just decided that. I don't like that, and I don't think a lot of people like that. But anyway, that is a triple lock. It's very interesting that there is some backlash from within his own party. And he said that this was always, Micheál Martin said that the reform of the triple lock was always in the programme for government. So, you guys can complain all you want, but you guys knew this was happening. I mean, is that a good argument? I would say no, but that's what he said. Okay, let's talk about drugs. Okay, so the Oxus Committee has recommended the decriminalisation of drugs. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So this report came out 24th of June, I want to say, and they like there was an Oxus Committee. Loads of people were coming in to speak. We had like doctors, we had people who are well versed in this like topic, family members who've lost people to drugs. Like, it was a lot. Okay, emotional people to like, because the criminalization, like, criminalizing drugs has not saved anyone's life. It literally has never saved anyone's life. Okay, and it hasn't led to the reduction of harm. So I don't know. Let's actually just get into what has been said. Okay, so it they recommended repealing Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act, okay? So that the possession of any drug for personal use is no longer a criminal offense. And then they argue that criminalization does not reduce harm and that a health-led model is overdue, which is like, yes, like we can't, the fear of going to jail is not enough for people who are drug addicts to stop doing drugs. It's never been enough at all, because one, you can also get drugs in jail. So it just doesn't do what they think that it's doing, okay? Okay, so how did this come about? So basically, there was a citizens' assembly on drug use in 2024, and the assembly concluded that drug use should be treated as like a public health issue, and that they recommended a form of decriminalization in practice, though like technically keeping it illegal, keeping possession illegal. So the Oireachtas Committee went further than the assembly, but it's very much similar to what the assembly said. They just went a little bit further. So let's see what Jennifer Murnane O'Connor said, and she is the Minister of State for the Department of Health, and her responsibility is the National Drug Strategy. Okay, so let's read some of her statement. She said, "The recommended full decriminalisation of drugs for personal use through the repeal of Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977." Mind you, 1977. The fact that we're even still talking about something like this, like times have changed. Like this is you're talking about like a section that was created in 1977. The amount of education and research that has gone into this from that point is insane. Like we actually do know better. So the fact that you're still harping on something that, again, no shade to people born in the 70s. My mom was born in the 70s. That's a long time ago. Okay. Anyway, so she said, I'll start again because I feel like I've lost my train of thought and maybe you guys have too. She said the recommended full decriminalisation of drugs for personal use through the repeal of Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977, which would effectively legalise the possession of drugs for personal use, is contrary to the recommendation of the Citizens' Assembly on Drug Use for a comprehensive health-led approach. Okay, but you guys don't always listen to the Citizens' Assembly though. So like saying like her reasoning being, well, that's not what the Citizens' Assembly said, as an excuse is not really a good excuse because they actually never really do listen to the citizens assembly anyway. So anyway, she said in line with the citizens assembly recommendation, the government has agreed to divert those found in possession of drugs for personal use to the health services in line with a health-led approach to drug use. Okay, and then she said that the Oireachtas report would be considered as part of the finalization of the next strategy and it would help to inform this work. I don't know. I think these people are just so old school. Like, especially Fianna Fáil, they're just so old school. And, like, the research is there, the data is there that says that decriminalization does work. I don't know, or not even necessarily that it works per se, but that criminalization doesn't work. Okay, like, we know that it doesn't work. So, to carry on doing something that you know doesn't work doesn't really make sense when everybody's telling you maybe going with a different option is maybe the better way. And also, sometimes I think like this is not necessarily just Irish politics. I think politics in general. Countries always feel like they're the first people to do something. Like, how do we know decriminalization is going to work? Well, we do know it's going to work because it's worked in other countries. Like sometimes I do think like these people are just too old school to be in government, and like, especially Fianna Fáil specifically, like they're the most old school of them all. Okay, I think we should really be taking advice from the professionals, and like I understand you're a politician and your job is to represent everyone, but like you have to represent us with the information that you've been given, and if the information that you've been given is telling you that decriminalization is the way to go, then maybe not even necessarily just because of the Oireachtas committee, because Oireachtas committees can be wrong all the time. Okay, but the fact that that this was agreed on cross party, not just like the opposition agreed on it or just not the government. Like they both agree that decriminalization is probably the way to go. But also just listen to the professionals and listen to what they tell you. Just because you feel like that doesn't seem right. That's not really a good excuse. Not that's what she said, but she hasn't really given an excuse as to why not. Okay? Like I do think we need to maybe be a little bit more educated on a topic before we make these decisions. Um, I don't know. She's the politician, but uh, I would have to disagree with her on this. The Garda Commissioner has also said that the guards on Garda Síochána do not support the decriminalisation of drugs. And I'm like, well, yeah, you'd have less shit to do, honestly, if drugs weren't illegal. I mean, that's not even what it is. That's not even what it is. Drugs would obviously still be illegal, but the personal use of drugs would be. And they also said that they like support a health-led like model as well, and that's what they've been doing now. So I'm like, if that's true, then decriminalization really wouldn't be that bad for you anyway. Anyway, decriminalize weed. That's all I'll say, because honestly, I don't know how it's still illegal at home. I think it's illegal here also. I don't know the laws in this country at all. But I assume it's illegal. I don't even smoke anyway, so it doesn't matter. But for my people that do, decriminalize weed. That's all I'll say on that. And I do think people should be able to smoke weed on the streets. Maybe not around kids, but whatever. Time and place. The same way you wouldn't smoke a cigarette beside a child. Except people do that. And I do find that weird. Because remember back in the day, you could actually smoke in a car with your child in it. And then the government had to come in and say, "Do you know what, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should," like, we are always learning. There's things that are normal now that wouldn't be normal, that won't be normal back in, won't be normal in the future. Times are always changing. So maybe let's just learn to be open, if you will. I feel like I'm rambling because I'm like hallucinating with this, or like I'm getting delirious with this heat. Like, it's just not right. It's just not right. I wasn't born for this. I feel like I'm literally in hell. This is actually making me act right. I don't. Hell's not even a real place, but the slight fear that it might be real and it might be this hot is making me reconsider my actions in this life. So, this one's interesting. Sinn Fein MEP Lynn Boylan is suing the government. I wish more people sued the government. But why is she suing the government? Remember when I spoke a while back, I think this was a couple months ago, about the Arbitration Amendment Act, okay, 2026. The government, anyway, in the middle of the night, had a vote, obviously, like, it's only them, but they had a vote, it passed, and then Catherine Connolly, when she was president, signed it into the law, and it ratified, or basically approved, signed into government, or signed into government, signed into the constitution, this deal, okay? And what is it? It is the EU-Canada Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. So it's a trade agreement between the EU and Canada. So this agreement happened years ago, okay? And it has been provisionally applied to Ireland since 2017, but it hasn't actually been like in our constitution. It hasn't been an actual thing, because when they tried to make it an actual thing in 2022, our Supreme Court deemed it unconstitutional, okay? And why? Because Senate tribunals could make awards without the involvement of the Irish courts. Basically, if a foreign, like, multinational company sued the Irish government, they could be awarded money, and our Irish courts, we couldn't even do anything about it. We just have to pay them. We couldn't fight them in our own courts because it passed in this tribunal. So it gives a lot of power to these people and takes it away from us, which is terrifying, okay? So tribunals relate to schemes set up to allow arbitration between investors and a state, okay? So us in this case. But anyway, so yeah, she's suing the government because she's saying you can't do that. You actually can't do that because they obviously changed the act a tiny bit. Um, she definitely changed the act a tiny bit because the Supreme Court had deemed it unconstitutional the first time, but still there was no discussion, there was no debate around this, there was no public scrutiny over this at all. There was no choice to even bring this to the Supreme Court. There was nothing of this sort, okay? None of this happened. It just passed. Catherine Connolly as president signed it into law, and now that's it there. So obviously she's suing them to say you can't do that. It was deemed unconstitutional before. What's the situation now? We never even got to have a look at it, and now it's here. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Okay? So anyway, the fact that, like, these corporations can, like, the amount of power that we're handing to them, the fact that these corporations can literally just sue the Irish government, and we just have to take it. We just have to affirm it, and we just have to pay whatever amount that they want, because these tribunals have said that. Like, you can't bring it to the Irish courts. Like, it's out of our hands completely. We just have to do that. And the government okay with this? Here. And and this is the problem. This is what the Supreme Court had a problem with the first time. And the government, I don't know what they even changed in it to allow this to happen, but that still applies. Like, that problem still applies. So I don't even know how they passed it. Well, anyway, we'll see how this court case goes. It starts in 6 days. I'm interested to see how this goes. I wonder, can you live stream it? I don't know if I care too much about actually watching court cases because they do seem a little bit boring. But yeah, oh no, it doesn't start in 6 days. It's gonna last 6 days, or is expected to last 6 days. It starts 30th of July, actually. So, still some time to go. I'm sure they're prepping their case. I don't know what the vibe is, but yeah, I would love to see their documents. I want to see what they're going to say. I guess we'll just have to wait. Okay, last topic. Do you want to know how the homelessness crisis is going in this country and how the government are handling it? Well, James Browne, who's Minister for Housing, has said that he stopped estimating when homelessness numbers will drop. Yep, so every single month without fail, homelessness numbers have gone up, and he's just said, you know what, we're gonna stop counting. We're not gonna stop. Well, they're not gonna stop counting how much it goes up, but they're not gonna even bother trying to figure out when it's gonna go down. It'll go down when it goes down. Okay, that's worrying. Okay, that is very worrying. So he was talking to Gavin O'Reilly on his, like, television show, his talk show, um, about this whole situation. So he said that it's very difficult to model when homelessness numbers will fall, and instead it's more important to put into place a framework to maximize the delivery of a home, or maximize the delivery of homes. Okay, and he said that the number of people without a home is not going to come down immediately, but they might. Oh, that's nice. They might level off. But he said that he's not going to predict when that'll happen. It'll happen when it happens. That's actually really reassuring to know. That's actually really assuring to know. And Gavin O'Reilly said, "You're saying it's effectively impossible to model, so you're not going to try." And he said, "Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not in so many words. He waffled and babbled as they do, but in so many words, that is it. Like they don't know how to figure it out, so they're not even going to try. Do you know how scary that is? Anyway, let's see how many homeless people we have in this country to date. 17,548 people. 17,548. And this is a spike following a 51% jump in eviction notices in early 2026. And this is because of that rent bill, the rent amendment bill that we've talked 1,000 times about. It's all because of that bill that they said it's not going to affect much, guys. Don't worry too much. Like, it's not going to affect eviction notices. You're not going to be kicked out of your house. And yet, 51% jump in eviction notices. And shouldn't they want to address that? No, of course not, because they'd have to admit that they were wrong, which they don't want to do. Oh, brother, it's not looking good. It's actually not looking good. So yeah, when is the next general election again, guys? 2029. Oh, brother, let's not think about it too much. Let's actually not think about it too much because it does get heavily depressing. Okay, I think I said on here that like a couple months ago that I'm gonna try not get too depressed about politics or like not think about it too hard or get too down about it on here because I don't want people to feel really like helpless and hopeless about it. But sometimes you just have to sit down and say, damn, this shit is not looking good. Okay. Maybe it's the heat that's getting to me and I'm just getting overwhelmed thinking about it. But yeah, this is why it's important to vote, guys. It's important to vote. But anyway, even though we're still gonna have these people in government for the foreseeable, it's still important that we have these conversations, that we stay educated, that we call these people out when it's like at all times, not when it's necessary, at all times. We have our foot on their necks at all times to let them know you can't just get away with this shit, okay? We know what's going on. We're clocked in. We're in tune, okay? So, what a roundabout way of saying it's over. No, I'm joking. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'm sorry if I depressed you guys a little bit, but like, how did you not get really sad thinking about how many homeless people there are in Ireland? Like, how did you not get sad thinking about that? I mean, no one has a smile on their face talking about it, surely. So yes, that's all I have for this week. I hope you guys are enjoying the weather. I'm not, obviously. But I feel and what I will say is I am jealous of people at home because you can go to the beach. Why the fuck am I in a landlocked city? Horror. And you have to pay. There's like this Hampstead Heath. I haven't been there yet, and it gets so crowded. We have to pay £5 to go in there to swim in a pond that the universe made itself. How greedy! How greedy! Okay. And then there's like Brighton Beach, but like the trains get so full because everybody's going there, and it's like overwhelming. And I just don't want to be on a train in this heat. Are you joking me? They don't even have aircon, I'm sure. So we just suffer. We just suffer, but we did get a fan actually, and we saw this life hack. If you guys have a fan and you put like a bunch of ice into a bowl and put it behind the fan, like because the air from a fan comes from behind it. So if you put it like one of those like spinny ones, right, and if you put it behind the fan, a bowl of ice, it'll start blowing back out cold air. I don't know if it's a placebo because we've been doing that for the past like day or two. I think it works because I swear before we were blowing hot air back to us and then we tried this hack and it does. I think we haven't been putting enough ice because we're trying to rationalize because we need to actually use it for our drinks and stuff. But I think it does work. So you guys should try it. That's what we're doing. But I think the weather's starting to cool down a bit. Not today, but probably tomorrow. But yeah, I will chat to you guys next week. Bye.